it's like the biggest celebrity wedding of the last decade.
Yeah.
Maybe longer.
No, it's crazy.
It's like our version of the royal wedding.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to Here's the Scoop from NBC News. I'm Savannah Sellers, filling in for Yasmin Vasugian. Today on the show, Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce, and 1,100 of their closest friends and relatives are descending on Madison Square Garden for what? Plus, millions of Americans are under heat alerts with record high temperatures expected to hit much of the U.S. this week. We'll talk about what might be causing the heat wave and how El Nino could make the rest of the year's weather even more severe. But first, the Supreme Court saved some of its biggest rulings for the very last day of the term. The justices are blocking President Trump's attempt to restrict birthright citizenship, allowing states to bar trans women and girls from participating in school sports, and striking down longstanding campaign finance rules. There is obviously a lot to unpack here, so we're going to jump right into it with our senior Supreme Court reporter, Lawrence Hurley. Hi, Lawrence. Thanks for being here.
Hi, good to see you.
You too. All right, let's start right with birthright citizenship. Of course, this highly anticipated decision coming on this very last day of the term for the Supreme Court. The president had wanted to restrict it. He even showed up at the court for oral arguments in what was a very rare scene to have a president there in the Supreme Court. 6-3 decision here. What did you make of what we learned from the justices and how the votes landed?
Yeah, I think as soon as President Trump announced this plan, a lot of legal experts were saying it would probably not survive a visit to the Supreme Court. And that is in the end how it played out. But I think, it was probably a little closer than some people thought it might have been. Some people even thought maybe it could be a 9-0 decision. But instead, the justices were quite divided. I mean, it was 6-3 on ruling against the president. But there's also other divides, like Justice Brett Kavanaugh was saying he would side with President Trump on the constitutional issue, but against him on a different ground. So there were actually 5-4 on the court saying that the 14th Amendment doesn't allow the president's executive order. So that's like a pretty close divide, as we all know. And that's certainly not what people were thinking coming into this.
Where do you think this means the question of birthright citizenship goes from here?
Well, of course, whatever Congress does, it can't subvert what's in the 14th Amendment, right? So that's a sort of baseline that unless the Constitution is amended again, won't change. So there are potentially things Congress could do that could go back up to the Supreme Court and could be tested again that would kind of clarify some areas of ambiguity, I suppose. But it's going to be hard, as we all know, for anything to get through Congress with the Republicans needing 60 votes and the Democrats probably opposed unless there's some kind of big deal that they could come up with, which in recent months, the Trump administration has shown not much interest in. So I think it seems unlikely that Congress would actually do anything on this.
Let's talk about another decision we got today. This was actually 2 cases with one decision coming down on this with transgender athletes. The court affirmed some of these states like West Virginia, Idaho, that they could bar trans women and girls from competing on girls' teams. First, tell me what was in these opinions and also in the dissent.
Yeah, so there's about 25 states or over half the states that have these types of bans on transgender girls and women participating in student sports. And the court is basically endorsing that. It was the court's conservative majority in the majority again, saying that it doesn't violate equal protection under the 14th Amendment or Title IX, the federal law that outlaws sex discrimination in education. There was lots of talk in the ruling that was authored by Justice Kavanaugh about the importance of girls being able to participate in sports on a level playing field. There was some sympathy towards transgender girls who want to also participate in sports. This was just another example of the court ruling against LGBTQ rights, which is done in quite a few cases recently. There was one ruling a few years ago where the court went the other way and embraced transgender and gay and lesbian rights in an employment discrimination case, but that's increasingly looking like an outlier.
So, Lawrence, this was essentially a ruling that says states can put those bans out there if they want to. What about something that takes us a step further? Like, should states have to enforce this? Is that a case that we could see in the future in front of the court?
Yeah, I mean, this is a moving ball, as it were, and in the bigger picture, there's already been the kind of a pendulum swinging against transgender participation in sports, whether it's at the NCAA level or at the Olympics. And so it does seem that like the momentum that transgender rights in particular had a few years ago has certainly stalled, and the Trump administration taking office has added to that, with the president being extremely hostile to transgender rights. And there's various other policies the government has implemented, such as a ban on transgender people in the military, which the Supreme Court also allowed to go into effect.
Lawrence, tell me what we got on campaign finance today.
Yeah, the court, in another ruling that probably isn't going to get as much attention as the others, struck down this long-standing provision of campaign finance law. It's a little in the weeds, one for the kind of campaign finance dorks, but it's the latest example of the court striking down restrictions on campaign finance. And in some ways, it was kind of inevitable that this would happen. This was about coordinated spending between parties and individual candidates, and the court is saying that's unconstitutional under the First Amendment, which is similar to other cases where they've ruled that campaign finance restrictions were unconstitutional, including in the famous Citizens United case. I'm not sure how much of a practical impact it actually does have, because there's so much outside spending, by independent super PACs and so on in elections now, that the actual money that the individual parties' committees spend on races probably isn't as important as it used to be, which was one of the rationales the court adopted today in striking it down.
Lawrence, if I could just ask you kind of one last big picture question here, especially just over the last 2 days and as this term for the Supreme Court comes to a close, because we had quite a bit here that really dealt so specifically with the president. Today, an executive order of his struck down. Yesterday, we had sort of a mixed bag when it came to who the president is allowed to fire and from which federal agencies. Broadly, what do you think this final day of the court's term says about presidential power and the way this court feels about it?
Well, I think a key thing to understand is that the court's conservative majority marches to the beat of its own drum, right? It's conservative, maybe sometimes allied with what the Republican Party or what the president wants to do, but it has its own priorities based on conservative kind of legal arguments that have been going on for decades. And as part of that, they very much support a strong presidency, and they're also very skeptical of federal agencies wielding power, especially when they're not accountable to the president. But, the court has also ruled against Trump on the Birthright Citizenship plan. It also overturned his sweeping tariffs on imports from overseas. And you can look at those rulings as being quite conservative too, because they're saying that the president was trying to take power that wasn't clearly given to him by Congress or by the Constitution. And they have a very expansive view of executive power, but that's a different view that President Trump has, who often says that he thinks he has pretty much unlimited power. And so when the court occasionally does slap him on the wrist, but at the end of the day, the administration probably is still winning more cases than it loses on issues like immigration enforcement and downsizing the federal government and firing agency members and things like that. So he's still got a winning record, and that's probably going to continue.
Lawrence Hurley, we appreciate you very much today. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Roughly 162 million people are under heat alerts in the U.S. this week as dangerous temperatures hit the nation. Cities from Minneapolis to Boston and all the way down to Orlando are at risk, and temperatures are expected to be in the high 90s, even reach into the 100s. In some areas, it could even feel as hot as 115 degrees Fahrenheit. Meanwhile, wildfires are raging out west and have been difficult to contain. So what's causing this extreme weather, and should we expect more intense temperatures as we get deeper into the summer? For this, I'm joined now by NBC News meteorologist Bill Karins. Hi, Bill.
Hello. I'm Team Winter, by the way.
Yeah. Except for I know you too well to know you complain when you have to shovel your driveway to no end.
I need a new t-shirt. I don't like extremes. How about that?
Okay, I can get behind that, and that's actually exactly what we're going to talk about today. Why, how is it so extreme? So let's just start with what is happening. So more than 30 states are going to be under these heat alerts. Tell us just how hot and where.
It's half the U.S. population is in some of what we call advisories or warnings or watches. So in other words, you're being told by government officials, hey, it's going to be really hot. And if you're in a category that, elderly, chronic illness, you need to take some precautions because this could be dangerous and, unfortunately, deadly. Because a lot of people don't know that, everyone thinks, hurricanes or tornadoes. Heat every single year in this country kills more people than those two combined.
Wow. Important.
And when you think about that, you're like, wait, so that's why you're seeing all these headlines, and that's why there's so much information about this, because we want people, check on your neighbors. If you have an elderly neighbor and, maybe their AC goes out during the heat wave and they don't want to call anyone or bother someone, and then they're in their house, and then that can get dangerous or even deadly. So that's kind of the reason why why you're even talking to me right now.
It's also not just heat we're dealing with right now. I mentioned these fires out west, including one that killed 3 firefighters battling those flames.
And this is early for the fire season. We're just knocking on July's door. The peak of fire season is like August and September and even into October. So we knew it was going to be a horrific fire season because we didn't get the snow. It was an extremely warm winter in the west, and it's just everything's dry. And there's water shortage problems all over the place. And so we just knew as soon as a fire starts, it was just going to rip and roar. And that's what's happening. I mean, we had one fire yesterday that formed yesterday morning in Colorado, not far from Pueblo. So it started in the morning. So it's like, all right, we got a new fire. It's at 100 acres. By last night, it was up to 26,000 acres.
Wow.
And for perspective, the biggest fire we have in the country right now is the Cottonwood Fire in Utah. And that one's about 100,000 acres, and it's been burning for like a week and a half. So this fire yesterday, they said the winds were 100 miles per hour. There was 2 towns, about 2,000 people, all their pets and animals yesterday. They woke up in the morning, no fire nearby. And by the afternoon, the sheriff was saying, go order, go. Don't even pack up. Get in your car, get your animals, get out. And so, and that's going to happen all summer.
So, look, I think a lot of people say, it's summer, it's supposed to be hot.
Yeah.
But just put this in perspective. I mean, how extreme is this heat for this time of year? Is it just because it's summer, or is this climate change?
Right, yeah. So people always want to know. Is first they want to know, is this hype? Is this climate change? The best way that it was explained to me by a climatologist, and I just repeat it to everyone, is that this heat wave would have happened even without humans putting CO2 and methane into the air and us warming the planet. But it's a magnitude worse because we did that. And that's the kind of way to look at the heat equation when it comes to our planet and with climate change. So it still would be very hot. Would it be a heat index of 108 in New York City? No, maybe it would have been 104. So that's the way I look at that.
Bill, take me back to my one college weather and the atmosphere class.
Oh, and I wish I could sit next to you in that class. That would have been so fun.
I would have liked that too, because you could have helped me when we had to do our little clicker quizzes. Not that I was a cheater. Tell me what it means that this is an El Nino year and how that plays into the weather pattern right now.
As far as El Nino goes, that's developing. This is, if you paid any attention in the media, super El Nino, Godzilla El Nino, everyone's coming up with all these crazy terms. But it will have a chance to be one of the strongest El Ninos that we have measured, at least possible. And what it really means is that the ocean is warmer in the Pacific than almost ever before, and it's a big driver of our weather across the planet. And it also means it's going to be warmer. I could bet all the money in the world that not this year, because there's a little delay, next year will be the warmest we've ever recorded on our planet in 2027. This year will come close. We'll be like second or third warmest ever measured. But because of how strong the El Nino is going to be this fall, 2027 will guarantee be the warmest we've ever experienced. And so everyone wants to know, how does that affect me? When we have super strong El Ninos, California especially is usually the big headline. Usually there's really powerful storms, a lot of rain, a lot of snow, a lot of wind, which we actually need in some areas because of the drought conditions, but we don't want to get it all at once and have all this destruction. And in general, most of the country should have a warmer winter coming up than is typical. So if you're if you love the snow and the ski like I do, I'm kind of already bummed out, and it hasn't even happened yet. But
And this past year wasn't good for a lot of the
for a lot of the
resorts
West,
in Utah.
yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Tell me, last thing, Bill, what does this mean for July and August? Are we in for a super hot full summer?
There's no correlation between early season heat waves and keeping it hot all
Interesting.
summer. Yeah, it's almost the same in the winter too. But we're early enough in the summer now, and there's no indications that like this big, huge heat dome or heat ridge is going to stay over the east. It's actually supposed to migrate a little bit more towards the west and the Rockies as we go through the week after the 4th of July. So don't fear. It doesn't look like this is going to be, I mean, we can all fear the AC bill coming. That's for sure. But yeah, don't fear that the whole summer looks like it's going to be locked up like this.
All right. Bill, Karins, thank you and happy 4th.
You too. Thank you.
Never in my wildest dreams did I think Taylor Swift would be marrying Travis Kelce at New York's Madison Square Garden, but apparently this venue could be her wonderland. All of the guests have allegedly signed NDAs, but we're hearing 1,100 people are expected to attend a Swift-Kelce party on Friday. That's according to a source who is among the invited guests. With so many rumors swirling, do we know the details all too well? And how can she make this space actually romantic? Joining me now is the expert NBC News entertainment correspondent, Chloe Malas. Hi, Chloe.
Hi.
Okay, so I want to start with your fabulous reporting. Tell me what you know from somebody who is invited to this wedding.
Sure. I mean, this has been such an interesting story to try to gather information on. And the other day, I was having a conversation with somebody who told me that they were going to the wedding. And they gave me some info. Now, they didn't give me everything. I knew that they were withholding. But what they did tell me is that they were invited, that they received an invitation electronically that was very vague. It said, be in New York, July 2nd through the 4th. So this coming weekend, no cell phones, and do nothing about the venue, nothing about where it was going to be.
Okay.
And that there were NDAs, also known as non-disclosure agreements, that you had to sign to click through, and that there were a lot of them.
Okay, but then now you did hear from this person that they do think or know that it's MSG and that it's 1,100 people?
So this person, without giving too much away, had a conversation with Taylor Swift, according to them, who told this person that it was happening at Madison Square Garden. And this wedding guest says that there are many others that obviously also know that it is at MSG, but that as of yesterday, this source I spoke to that's going to the wedding, Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce, still had not told wedding guests officially where it's going to be. Now, separately, I have a source at MSG who says that the dates between July 2nd and July 4th are blacked out. We also know from the mayor's office at NBC News that there are permits that have been secured for street closures around MSG this weekend, and it's not just for America's 250th and the fireworks. Mayor Mamdani has been super coy in all of his interviews, and we know that this permit filed by somebody at the mayor's office requested a tent large enough for 1,000 people. And I can imagine this is to protect the anonymity of these guests who are going to be attending. This source, this wedding guest, back to this person I spoke to the other day, told me that they had firsthand knowledge that there were also going to be musical performances and that among the performers, Stevie Nicks.
Do you think at this point there's any chance, like some people are still saying online, that MSG is some kind of fake out? That they planted this somehow and it really is happening in the Hamptons, like some people are saying?
So here's the deal. When you read the New York Times and you read the other reputable outlets out there that are also reporting on the wedding festivities, it sounds like there are also a lot of hotels that are booking up in Manhattan. So I think that something is definitely going down this weekend in New York. But I also think, though, I don't think it's a fake out, but I also don't buy some of the theories online that this is a concert for fans. I would be totally shocked
no, that's not
if
that's not
there
real.
is some
No
sort
way.
of something happening there. It is a wedding something this
Right.
weekend.
Yeah.
And I just can't think of another place in the New York City area that makes sense for over 1,000 guests that is private.
It's private.
To your
I
point.
agree.
And if she wants to control the pictures, the narrative, the wedding guests, all the sorts of things, I think like this is the one that I guess makes the most sense.
The other thing that I feel like people are being a little narrow-minded about is what you could make it look like. She's
Sure.
not getting married on the Knicks basketball court. It's basically a huge hotel ballroom.
According to TMZ, she was building this ornate, incredible stage somewhere in Philadelphia.
Right, for these musical
So-
performances.
Who knows what this day is going to look like?
Do you think, and if you do think, when do you think we get any content? When do we get a picture?
Friday.
When do we get a video?
Well, so obviously she is so good, you know this, about controlling her image.
Yeah.
I think that we're going to see the wedding dress. I do believe the rumors that she's going to wear Christian Dior.
Mm.
And I think she's going to look absolutely stunning. And I think that there will probably be Easter eggs in the stage and the dress and the things that we see. And I think it's like the biggest celebrity wedding of the last decade.
Yeah.
Maybe longer.
No, it's crazy.
It's like our version of the royal wedding.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. No question. But all in all, I hope that it goes the way that they want, even while we all talk about it and wonder everything about what's going on.
And how about this? Everybody worries about rain on their wedding day, although it
Yeah.
is considered to be
concern.
good luck. Not a concern
Not
if
a
you're
concern.
inside MSG.
Another reason.
Another reason. Got
Chloe
married
Melas.
inside.
That was so fun. Chloe, thank you.
Thanks.
That's going to do it for us at Here's the Scoop from NBC News. I'm Savannah Sellers, filling in for Yasmin Vasugian. We will be back tomorrow with whatever the day may bring. If you like what you heard and you saw, press the subscribe button, and we'll see you tomorrow.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.